Welcome to Phygital Labs, our webinar today on Canva Whiteboards. Whiteboards are an extremely versatile tool that I believe are usually underutilized in Canva. A lot of people go to images and go to presentations, and there's all these other tools. And so we're going to talk today specifically about collaborative work in whiteboards. Students love to work together. They love the communication. They love having opportunities to work with friends or with other kids. And so let's give them an opportunity to do something they enjoy, to be creative, and to get going with something that can really foster a lot of good academic language use and discussion and help students have a different way to reflect on their learning, to show their understanding, and as educators, for us to get students feedback and what they're understanding in a different way. So we're going to jump in. Today's focus on Canva whiteboards for collaborative learning. Again, thanks for joining today. You can stay connected with us at Phygital Labs. I am Nathan Wells. I'm the director of Phygital Labs and lead a lot of our training and work with our trainers on all things Canva and a lot of other ed tech topics as well, AI being the hot one right now. You can stay connected with me on LinkedIn, or you can find me at EdTechWells on the different socials as well. So we're going to create a whiteboard activity. We're going to look at templates. We're going to look at how does a whiteboard function in Canva. So we're going to kind of go through that a little bit. Look at some activity ideas. So what are some ways that Canva has some great activities already built in, and just some ideas that you can use. Some of the basic settings and sharing, make sure you're comfortable with that. And then some ideas around managing, because that's a lot of times where if there's issues people get caught up in is, oh, this kid deleted everybody's stuff and this kid's not using it in a kind way. So what are some classroom management pieces that we can add to this as well so that it's successful? So that's where we're going. So we know whiteboards work because it's engaging, it's visual, and it's collaborative, right? Those three things sum up why we might use a whiteboard. And it's that engagement and collaboration that I'm going to focus on. The visual side will just kind of come through, because we're using Canva. It's just such a beautiful visual platform. But then B, you'll kind of see some of those, especially in the templates, and you can add in a lot of other resources of your own. So if you have images, if you have videos, if you have links, all of those things work in Canva Whiteboard. Something I'm not going to probably demo, looking at the time, we'll see, but you can actually take a presentation and turn it into a whiteboard. So there's lots of ways that you can integrate other things that you have into a whiteboard activity. So let's look at some easy creation and configuration. So if I go to the basic, just canva.com, sorry, just the homepage, canva.com, the easiest way to get started is to either look at my different tools across the list here and click on whiteboard. And that's just going to open up a blank whiteboard. And I just have all this space. I can start doing whatever I need to. And if you notice the little zoom slider, you see the little tiny dots. If you can see those, they get smaller and smaller and bigger as I'm zooming in and out. It is an infinite whiteboard. I always chuckle when I look at this because it reminds me of the old either smartboard or Promethean board software we used to use. That's how I started training when I was still in the classroom. And there's just some basic whiteboard tools that we've seen in all those different softwares over the year. We can add a table and we can adjust the size and we can add more or change how many columns and rows there are. You can change the text just like anything in Canva. So we could build a table just to get our students maybe started and have them start posting things or have them working together. So we could just start with a basic grid. The other things that are over here are shapes, lines, and sticky notes. So sticky notes are one of the main ways I usually use whiteboards with students and in training with teachers. So when I click on a sticky note, it just adds it here, and I can, of course, reshape it however I want, and I can even go up here and change the color. So if that's helpful for an activity to have multiple colors, or each group is a different color, or each person is a different color, you can do that. The other thing I want to point out is if they're signed in, which all of your students, if you're using Canva Education, have free accounts, so they should be signed in. it automatically puts their name on it. So that's the other thing I really like about sticky notes is it's specifically designed to be a quick place for students to write their opinion, what they're learning, any of that, and it's named. So you always know who it's coming from, and peers can see who has written what, which can be really handy. And so I can do those, and it doesn't matter how many I create and what colors I create, my name will always be on there, and I can do that. The other thing you can do is you can go into Elements and you can add in all of these sticky notes as a default, and you can have those as a part of it as well. So you could add those in multiple places, which is nice. All right, so I'm just going to move this over to the side. And then something that I do a lot of times too is I'll lock it, or let me change that, I'll duplicate it. And you can instruct students on how to duplicate themselves. So if I go in and duplicate this and just change, maybe I'm just going to do a series of colors here, right? And then I'm going to duplicate again. And so I'm just going to make it quick and easy for students to get their own sticky notes here, right? And so I could make a list of them. And then I can instruct students on how to duplicate. And then there's other ways you can work with that as well, just as a quick example. The other thing with creating a whiteboard is with all of your designs, it's going to be easier to keep track of and for students to know what the objectives are with the naming. So maybe this is, we're working collaboratively on our classroom routines, and we're starting a new routine because whatever it is, after spring break or whatever it is you may be doing, new semester. And so you want to entitle it. We can also add in just a basic text box. I'm going to use heading because I like the size. And we can add in, what is the point of this table? So add categories, right, to here. And so we can give some simple instructions and start doing that. So just like any Canva design, you can have all of those same tools. The things that are really unique to Whiteboard specifically are some of the tools that you saw just standing out. So the sticky notes are unique. I can automatically grab a text box. It just makes it quick and easy to grab. And it's got the draw tools are automatically there. Now your draw tools are available in other Canva tools, but they're kind of front and center when you open up a blank Canva whiteboard. Now, when I go up to templates, obviously it's a little bit different because now I'm using a whiteboard, so my templates can be focused around whiteboard. So I could click on one of these, it's automatically going to drag something in. So let's just do like creative here. So you notice it still has my little one over here, and you notice how it really zoomed us out. So I can zoom in, and that's one of the things for navigating whiteboards you need to know, is that to be able to understand and get around whiteboards, you have to, the zoom is your friend, right? So we can zoom in here, and that's a teaching moment for some students, is helping them feel comfortable with that. And the easiest way to do it is I'm using the scroll wheel on my mouse to go up and down. I'm using the slider at the bottom of the screen, and I'm using the zoom at the bottom of the screen. Most of the whiteboards, especially if they're made by Canva, will have these instructions over here as well to help with whatever the type of activity it is. So it gives you some shortcuts of what you can do, and then kind of gives you some helpful ideas and ways you can work together on that as well. So I'm going to scroll back up. So you can see there's some sticky notes kind of built in here, and I can go up and duplicate and grab my own sticky note and use that. And then I can just double click to interact with it, and now I can be typing on there. So that's kind of how you're going to use those and what you can use those for, which is great. The other thing when we're in a whiteboard is getting students working together. So just like anything else, I'm going to go up to share, and I can either share with my class if I have a class set up, or I can use the copy link, or the other sharing options like share straight to Google Classroom and other learning management systems that you may be using and have integrated. So if you're signed in with what we call SSO, or single sign-on, so if they sign into Google, and that gets them to Canva. They sign on to Microsoft, that gets them to Canva. They're using whatever it is, and that's how they get into Canva. It should have a share option for that as well. All right, so I'm going to close that one. The other way we can get to Canva whiteboards really quick and easily is through templates. This is the majority of the time where I see whiteboards being used. So when I click on templates, I can, if I know what I want, I can just start typing, but I can also click on education whiteboard right here, this option. Hopefully you can see that on my screen okay. And when I click that, you notice now it automatically is filtered to whiteboard. And I've got these different education themed ones here, these interactive board game and some art ones and a gallery walk and some other really fun categories. Now, because it's automatically filtered to education whiteboard, I can also just search here. So if I just did a generic KWL chart, which is what you know, what you wonder, and what you learned, then you can also see all of those are still in that education theme because it's filtered to education whiteboard, right? So I can find one here that works. So I've already clicked on one to open it up. I've clicked on a couple actually. And these templates are nice because they're specific to a theme and they have the characters that kind of help and spaces for students to type. So this one, even the directions say, is really suited for small groups. And this one is focused on language arts. So instead of just happy feelings, the students are supposed to come up with ideas of another word to describe happy feelings. So they're supposed to be using academic vocabulary to describe that, other words that could use for that. So instead of happy, they could say joyful, right? To other words, and this is supposed to be collaborative. So I would assign this to small groups. So I would assign that to groups, or if you're using the Canva system, or again, I can just use the copy link. And the best scenario here, again, is going to be small group activities for this type. There's other ones we can do with whole group, but this one's really designed and would work best as a small group. Now, strategy. If I really zoom out, look at that, infinite whiteboard, right? I could cover all of it, hit Control C on my keyboard, go down a little ways and hit Control V, go over a little ways, Control V, right? So I could also have the entire class in here in different sections and just had them spread out. And if I did that, what I would do then is I would, instead of it just saying group activity, maybe I would put group 3, right? And then they would go, and honestly, if I was doing that, I would also color code it so it was easy for students to find. So I would do, like you're going to be the turquoise group or the blue group. And then I would make that easy for them to identify quickly. So that way they could find their group just by looking at the color. Or maybe it's the background I changed the color of. So it's really quick and visual. Yeah, that's a little bit much, but I could find a way to do that, right? So it's quick and visual for a group when they are zoomed out and come here like, oh, that's our group because I see the color. So that's another strategy or way that you might be able to use this as well, where you have everybody in one place. That goes back to classroom norms and management, we'll talk a little bit more about. So that's creating a whiteboard. Now, to use the collaboration tools, let's talk a little bit about that. So we did sharing, and I also just want to mention, because you're in your school environment, mine says Phygital Labs because that's my work environment. So just replace that with school. Yours would have your school name, right? So where my kids go to school, right? I would say Gaston Schools. And then anybody in that gets the link could get it, or you can share it with your specific group using these other share options in here. Once you've done that, so let's zoom in here a little bit. The main collaborative tools are assigning a specific group of kids to a specific area, and then having them, let's say like everybody's working on happy feelings at the same time. I don't want them typing in this one box. I would want them pulling out their own sticky notes and zooming in so they can see their own sticky notes and adding theirs so that name is attached to it. That's why I called that out before. So that way I know who's participating. Now, if instead this is like a centers activity, if you're in like an elementary classroom, for instance, and you have 1-2 computers for 3 to 5 kids, then that wouldn't matter as much and you could use this main text box because everybody's discussing it offline, right? and then one person's dictating and writing it on there or something like that. I've also seen that work really well in high school and college age because that maturity is a little bit there and they understand group work environments a little bit better. So they're able just to have a good discussion and just have one person writing it down. Or maybe they switch and like, I'm going to write down for this card, you're going to write down for the next card, you're going to write down for the next card. And even if they're all in on computers, only one person is typing at a time. I said that kind of quickly. So let's say for happy feelings, I have a group of three of us. Person one is writing happy feelings, although all three of us are talking. Person two is writing down for angry feelings, even though all three of us are talking. And then person three is this one. And then we go back, person one, person two, right? So you could do that in different ways as well with those group environments. So that's another way you can do that. Oops, I think I clicked it too many. I did. So we can also do a activity where we want students to see what others are doing. For instance, let's say this one, this is around cultural traditions. This could be a social studies or a foreign language class or something like that, perhaps. And let's say a group has already worked on this one. So they've added in their ideas and they've done theirs. And we want to treat it more like a gallery walk. But instead of students going out in the hall and walking down and seeing posters, it's virtual. So in this case, maybe when I share it, I've shared it as anyone with the link, or of course, their class, but I've changed it to can view or can comment. And what I like about the can comment is teaching students a couple of things. One, when they click on one of these note cards, post-it notes, right? They can, let's scoot a little bit more. They get two options up here, a can comment and an add a reaction. So we can be working on teaching them to give celebratory interactions, to give constructive and positive feedback. So that way they're learning good collaboration skills and working together and what that looks like in a positive learning environment. So we're teaching them, especially our elementary, middle school age, they need that guidance, and we want to make sure we're being positive and helping them. And so that's a great way to do that. So you can be teaching them how to use those tools, and a kind of a safeguard is not to leave it anybody can edit, but to automatically put it as can comment. And so it kind of leaves them with only that option, right? They don't have the option to actually click in it and change anything. So they can't be, messing around with any of that. The other thing, if it's on can comment, is they can't be changing all types of things and deleting things and adding things. They can't do any of that either. So can comment protects the main whiteboard material, background, text boxes, anything that's on there, but they can still leave their feedback. And so that could be good. If you have things on there like an exit ticket that you want students just to leave a comment about what they've learned, things that they're doing, or something like this where it's more like a gallery walk. That's a couple ways you can do that. So that's permissions. Really focus on what they're supposed to be doing. Really, you want them going, and that's one of the reasons I went back to like the post-it notes have their name automatically on there, so you can track that. But then also really setting those clear goals and expectations is important. All right, so some ideas and ways you can do this. Sticky note, I've talked about that. So just having kids, go in and put their own sticky note on ideas and things that they've learned. So that could also be a different way to use the cultural traditions one, is they add the ideas and things that they've learned on there. And again, I would encourage different colors, so that way it's a little bit engaging and also gets kid using different things, and they can just place them everywhere. And one of the beautiful things about this is once students kind of make a mess with the different sticky notes, and we got all these different colors and they're just everywhere and they're over on top of each other, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is a lot. Well, another trick is if I don't want that ever moved, I would just click lock. There we go. So for these, I can just click over all of these and I can click sort. And so I'm just going to do by color, for example. When I click sort, you notice it automatically pulled all my sticky notes together and left them a little bit easier to see. So let's redo that. There we go. So I'm going to go back to my sticky notes. I'm going to click sort, and let's do, so you can see by reaction too, that's a way for voting. And you can do by color. Well, I guess that's my only option. And so it brings them all the way across. The other way I can do that is if I had a whole bunch of sticky notes all the way across here, I could do the same thing, and it's going to sort those as well, which is kind of fun. And you notice it automatically grabbed that group title in there. So if you wanted to keep that, you could, and you could keep those together. I'm holding down the shift key to keep those together is how I'm doing that. So that way it's easy to grab them. And I only have one each, so that was easy to move them around. So that's just another thing that you can do, and another way that you can use that. Word webs are great. So this is where this is like ELA example a little bit. Web a lot of times emphasizes that you're going to be spreading out a little bit more. So maybe I'm going to grab a sticky note. I'm going to put a type of word. Then I'm going to grab a line, and I'm going to show how this one connects to this one over here. So this has a different word on it, and I can show that there's connections between them. And so you can have students be doing these types of things as well, where they have like, oh, this connects to this one, and having them have an opportunity to go in and talk about which ones connect to what. And obviously I didn't write words on there, but if I did, we could talk about why do those fit together and how. And again, once you have all these stickies on here and you have more and more and more and more and more on here, duplicate. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. I got all these sticky notes and they're just everywhere and they're a mess. And there's kids are lining them up and trying to get them going different things. I can just highlight all of them, go to sort, and go through. And now I did by topic that time, and they just made this nice little box. Now, obviously they messed up my lines, but if I'm done with the lines, I just want to see all the sticky notes. That's one way you can do that, which makes it easier to read, which is kind of fun. And then debating, yeah, that's another way. I've seen sticky notes be used as well, where for along the debate kind of speech or giving a presentation, you can have students use sticky notes and be able to type in, their different ideas. And then when they are kind of get all their ideas down, then they come in and sort them like, oh, actually, this one goes with this one. This one goes with that one too. But these kind of go together. And so it's a good way to get students kind of thinking about how their ideas go together. And then that kind of starts to coalesce into, okay, this is topic 1, paragraph 1, topic 2, paragraph 2, to get them writing or presentation, section 1 of my presentation, section 2 of my presentation. So it's a good way for students to get ideas down as well, and just get all your ideas out, just a brain dump, get them all out. Then we'll go in and we'll organize them into our nice little area that we can see them all nicely together. So that's a quick way to do that for the debate or prep for a presentation or something like that. I mentioned the KWL charts. There's also types of Venn diagrams you can do. The concept maps are fun. One of the things I like about the concept maps is, let's zoom out. So I'm holding down Control when I'm zooming in and out like that, or I could use the slider here as well. So the other thing you can do with concept maps is when I go to elements, I can search for things. So if I'm going to do a type of airplane just to help me get some ideas across, and then maybe I'm going to do a train, and I'm going to get different types of, that's probably not the best one I'm going to use. Let's just use a modern train, right? And then a car. And so I can start to get these different elements in here, and I can use my sticky notes to go along with them. And so that's where we can start using our, go back to tools, right? So I can get different modes of transportation in this example. And I can use that to help me show how these different modes of transportation were used in history or whatever it is, right? So that's another way that you can do like a concept map, is you can use element library for videos, for pictures, for animations, for all of these different types of things still can be a part of your whiteboard activity. All right. Some other ideas for sorting. So we could do a sort activity. So let's go back and look at our templates. And we could do, let's see, this one's got nature's categories. So that one's kind of fun. Let's see what that is. Sure, we'll try that one. So physical attributes. So this one, we have physical attributes and habitats. So which ones go where? And we can kind of sort them into those different categories and then label them, right? We can have students label them. See, that needs to be locked. So I'd actually click the little lock button. There we go. So I'm accidentally drag it. That's part of that setup ahead of time. And you can have students go through and do these different things with the physical attributes in this case. And of course, we can duplicate these so we have multiple sticky notes as well to help us. So that's a fun sorting activity. You can see this one actually has a few sorting activities included, which is kind of cool. So rock research and different things. So maybe it's different things that they've learned and they're going through and doing one, and then they're going to the next one and doing two, and then continuing on to the third. So those are some fun. There's some other types of sorting activities you can look through it here. And of course, if you have a certain standard you're teaching, you're going to want to put that in here, not just sorting. You're going to want to put, yeah, probably some types of language arts or science or social studies, whatever you're doing, be able to put that in there as well. Literary elements, that was the other one. So those are another great way we can do that. So if you happen to be having students work remotely, it can be great to also use whiteboards so that you've got all students involved. I know for some of the teachers I've worked with that are doing remote learning, that are a virtual school, for instance, or we're still here when I'm doing this webinar today. Some people are still getting winter weather, right? And so maybe you have a virtual learning day where the kids aren't coming to school that day. You could do a whiteboard activity because you can easily invite everybody in and get them interacting and working together, which is really fun. Pairs are nice for quick guided questions. Small groups, make sure you have assigned roles, as I was kind of talking through before. And whole class, it's really those clear expectations. We don't mess with somebody else's, right? All of those types of things, and making sure that they know how to handle that and are good with the rules and procedures and kind of can do that before you really jump in and get started. And we talked about those templates. All right, so this was just a quick overview of Canva whiteboards. We do these webinars every couple weeks around Canva education specifically, and then other topics as well. So hopefully this was interesting and helpful, gave you some ideas, maybe got you jump started on how Canva whiteboards can be used in your own class. My name is Nathan Wells with Phygital Labs. Love to stay connected with you. You can subscribe to our newsletter or use the link tree and the QR code on the left to be able to connect with us in all different places and find our website. But I hope this was good and you got a lot of great ideas.